All right, we will proceed further then. What about our duties and our rights in the light of the law? We have many duties and many rights. God created man a moral being. The very sense of that is every moral being, they have responsibilities, duties, rights, privileges. Animals don't have duties, rights and privileges because they are not moral beings. Man is a moral being because moral values, he has moral values, he makes moral judgments. He is held accountable for everything he say, everything he do. He does, he's a moral being. Yes. The personal existence of man necessitates rights and duties. What they are could be understood only from the Bible. What these duties and rights you can understand only properly from the Bible. Of course, does that mean that a non-Christian can never understand what are the rights and duties? They can understand what the rights and the duties only because they are listed in your constitution or here and there, But what are the sources of these things? That's what we need to understand. What are the sources? What are the sources? Why do you say that I have certain rights? When you start examining it, how come the parents say we have certain rights? The children have the duty to honor us. We have the duty to protect you and provide for you. But it's our right that you respect us and obey us. But what's the basis of it? The basis of it is the Word of God. It's God's will. That's what it is. It is God's will that all parents, must love their children, take care of their children, teach their children, protect their children, provide their children. That's parental responsibility. It is God's will. But as opposed to some countries where even parents sacrifice their own children. But is that right? Where did they get that idea from? See, they do it simply because they're totally ignorant about the Bible. They're totally ignorant about the Bible. They have no idea about, man being a moral being, that the child born is a moral being, the child is born with rights and duties. The age and the lack of development of their, neurons and this and that, and does not mean that they are not human being. They are. They are. They are as much human being as anybody else. So only those who understand the Bible or accept the Bible, they can properly understand what these duties and the rights are. Bible is the only special revelation of God. The Bible tells us how man will operate in this world, honoring his position of being a creature of God, created in the image of God, and what are his duties and what are his rights. Man's rights and duties cannot be speculated, for they involve God, fellow man, and the universe. It's a triangle. God, man and fellow man, and the universe, So in another sense, towards God there are some duties, towards fellow human being there are some duties, and even the material world. When God created Adam and Eve, that's very clearly stated. With reference to God, man was to obey him, right? He gave a commandment, thou shalt not. Man was to obey. Man was to believe and operate in faith and obedience. And, the material world, they were said to keep it, protect it, subdue it, have rule over it. Later, when man became a society of human beings, said, love your neighbor. All the law and all the prophets are summarized in that one, love God and love neighbor, and protecting this universe. So all those duties and all those responsibilities and many privileges are there. Unless we understand properly even how man was created, this fact that every man carries the image of God. And as such, he is an image bearer of God. When I see you, I must see you as an image bearer of God. Not as God or something. No, man is never God, but only an image bearer of God. So you as an image bearer of God has certain rights. I must honor it. I have certain responsibilities towards you. I have certain privileges. So the law is there to ensure every individual is able to enjoy the performance of his duties and enjoys the experience of his privileges and all that. Beginning with my own duty to me, to my wife, to my children. That is the smallest society where the family. So without a conflict and without friction, how smoothly the society could function. The governments are there, the law is there to enable their functioning. If there is no law, the society will break up. We cannot function. So since each human being carries the imago Dei or the image of God, each human being is to be acknowledged and honored as God's special image bearer. That means each one should function without interfering with the other person who equally carries the image of God. The existential freedom of man is to be preserved by the law. The existential freedom. I have the right to exist. I am a being. I exist, therefore I am a being. I have feelings. I have emotions. I have intellect, therefore I think. I have will, therefore I act. My personality should be honored by others, and I should honor your personality. You may not agree with my thinking, but you have the freedom to think your thoughts, and I must respect it. That's where the freedom of expression comes. It should never be at the cost of others. Freedom of expression. It should never be to abuse others, but every individual has the existential freedom. Since each human being, has this existential freedom, necessary laws must be enacted and rightly executed to guarantee this freedom. The human rights movement actually are not preserving this existential freedom of man. The human rights movement, they always violate your religious freedom, for example. They always violate. You show one human rights movement that says you have the freedom to serve your God, believe in your God, preach your religion, practice your religion. No. The human rights movements have banned Bible reading and banned prayer in the school, banned this and banned that. Why? Because they have kept the Bible away. When you keep the Bible away, you don't understand what the existential freedom is. This is mistake even some Christians are making, They think the Bible is only for Sunday. Or Bible is only for spiritual matters. Bible is not the guidebook for the education of your children. Bible is not the guidebook for starting your business, for searching a job. Bible is not the guidebook for driving your car. Bible should be a guidebook for driving your car. Some believers are legalists. Therefore, their eye is always on the speedometer. 80 means 80. It's never 81. They are legalists. They will say, I didn't break any. They are so proud they never broken. Some others are not legalists, but they keep their eyes for the police. That's what. Their eyes are always roaming. Any police, any signs of any police, because their philosophy is the 11th law. 11th commandment, thou shalt not be caught. They operate on that one. But a true Christian is a biblicist, is a moralist. What is it? His eyes are on the street. He is driving to protect people. Speed is not a matter for him. Police is not a matter for him. I will protect the people. The older people crossing, women crossing, children crossing. There's a mud puddle there. I don't want to splash the dirt on the others. So I'm not worried about what speed I am going. I'm worried whether my speed will hurt people. Am I driving at a speed that where, safety, the freedom of the other drivers, the freedom of the passenger pedestrians, the little children, and all those. That's what we should be. We should not be looking at the speedometer all the time. You can be keeping the speed and hitting a person. But you could say that I am not guilty, he crossed, he jumped in front of. No. You should have been looking, even if a man jumps into your front, you should not hurt him. That should be your, because you should say that with my vehicle I never want any person to be hurt. That should be. See, this is that spirit we get only when we read the Bible. Love your neighbor. Otherwise we will be simply matter of obeying the law, preserving my personal rights. I pay the tax, road tax, therefore I have the right to do. The pedestrians are not paying the road tax, so they have no right. Priority should be for me, we can be, our thinking goes like that. So as a good Christian, I must be, obeying the law, because the laws are made to guarantee the smooth functioning of every individual, the enjoyment of their freedom, the enjoyment of their rights, the performance of their duties. That's how we should be. So laws are made for this purpose. So Christian law is closely tied with the human rights and duties. God commands every man to honor his neighbor. So that means the neighbor's existential rights are equally important as my existential rights. I must preserve his existential right as a matter of priority, because the commandment is not to preserve my existential rights, but love your neighbor. Love your neighbor, that's the commandment. So that's where the emphasis. Love your neighbor as yourself does not mean, it's not encouraging self-love. Some people interpret that. First you love God, second you love yourself, third you love your neighbor. There are not three loves. Jesus summarized it only with the two clauses. When your neighbor loves you, it's easy for you to function. He keeps away from your wife, he keeps away from your children, he keeps away from your property. You don't have to be afraid of him killing you. See, that's why these commandments are given then. You should be able to enjoy your family life. Your neighbor should not be interfering. And you should not be interfering in his neighbor's family life. They should be able to. That's why these laws are given. The sanctity of life, the sanctity of family, the sanctity of property, the sanctity of so many things guaranteed. So laws are made to preserve these things. Laws are made to preserve these things. But people go ahead and violate those things. And laws are made what? Usually laws are made to protect the offender. The interpretation of the law is that. Usually it is stated that if you have a good criminal lawyer and maybe 1 lakh or 2 lakh rupees, you can kill anybody very easily. You can violate any law. The lawyer will defend you. But that's not the purpose of the law. The purpose of the law is to ensure. So, my existential duty, my rights are the existential duties also, towards my neighbor. My existential rights become the existential duties of my neighbor. My neighbor could exist only if I do not kill, I do not commit adultery, I do not steal, I do not lie, I do not lust. Then only my neighbor could exist. And I could exist only if my neighbor does not do those things. If he practices all those things, then when I come from somewhere, my wife is gone, my children are gone, my property are gone, my home is gone. So the laws are made so that the society can exist smoothly. So every law must be honoring the divine will for man's rights and privileges and duties. If biblical concept of existential rights and duties are maintained, then every person will have his or her sphere of free existence. The state need to ensure and provide the sphere of existence. Every person must have the room to move, the room to breathe, the room to work, the room to produce, the room to provide for. There will be a lot of people who does not have those, facilities. So God had given each man 2 hands. We all eat with only 1 hand, but we produce with 2 hands. Every law-abiding Christian is supposed to produce double of his need. One for his neighbor, So everybody. So how much I should produce? Double of my needs. That's how much I should. But Christians are so selfish. We consume everything we produce. And then we go and buy the ration also, even though we are not eligible for it. Is that terrible? The laws must be made to catch Christians who violate that. Yeah, Christians. There are Christians who should get the ration, but there are Christians who should not be taking the ration. No, they should not. Why should they? All Christians should be proud that I work enough for my needs and enough for the need of another family. It is said that every American produces enough for 4 people in the world. Well, that's good. And every Indian consumes enough for 4 people. No, we should not be. We Indians are known, we Malayalis are known for building palatial houses and those we never need, We never need. It's only a symbol of our prestige or whatever I want. What prestige is there? Burying your valuable money in the mud is a foolishness. Money should be put in circulation, then only you get money, You can build a house that is useful and needful, It should not be too small that you cannot entertain anybody or you cannot have room for guests or anything, but it should be big enough, but it should not be too big that spiders and other wild animals could, take refuge there. If that's the purpose, of course, then it is. It should not. It should never be. Yes. So the biblical concept of existential rights and duties are maintained when every person will honor the laws that are made to preserve the freedom of movement, the freedom of existence. A citizen's freedom of existence should be guaranteed by the government by making laws to provide and to protect those rights of existence. Equal right of citizen is a principle to acknowledge and execute. God-given rights cannot be curtailed by anyone. These rights are called the fundamental rights of life and living. God has given us life and therefore we have the right to live. God brought us into this world and governments need to ensure that life is protected and living is guaranteed. Divine law requires the people, the society, the nation to acknowledge the Creator's will for man to exist meaningfully. Every citizen must have a meaningful life. And the sad thing in India is very few people have meaningful life. Simply eating some food and sleeping is a meaningful life. The meaningful life is when you enjoy your rights and when you fulfill your duties. That's when it's meaningful. What provides satisfaction to a husband? Today I have fulfilled my husband's responsibilities and I enjoyed my husband's privileges. That's when you feel, I'm proud. I have done my duties to my family. I'm happy my family has done their duty to me. No, it's merely existence. It's merely a matter of survival. We just, wives, they must feel that, my life is a fulfilled life because I have been able to do all my duties to my wife and children. And I got all my rights and privileges to be enjoyed. I feel I have a fulfilled life, a meaningful existence. Very few people have meaningful existence. Our children should feel that they have meaningful existence. When? Whatever responsibilities they had, sibling responsibilities and filial responsibilities and whatever was there, they must be able to fulfill it and enjoy it. They must be able to lay down the bed and say that, boy, I have a very fulfilled life, a meaning life. The love of my parents, plenty I have this day. I was respected as a human being by my parents. I was cared for. And I was able to do my duties to my parents. I could love my parents, obey my parents. Even I had a meaningful relationship with my neighbor. So I can say, thank God, I'm a fulfilled person. Let our people grow in that way. Let us say that, Instead of saying, we lay down there, what are we complaining about it? Oh, that supper was not good, it's too much salt, Oh, that neighbor is terrible, their dog is terrible, barking all day, it doesn't even permit, Oh, that child was troubling me all day, baby was crying, I don't know why, this, that, Oh, a bunch of complaints we go. We feel that we are hurt by many ways. We sometimes feel that even God is not doing right to us. Though we don't say that, we feel that, God, you are not doing right to me. No, we should be. Yes. So that a meaningful life, a meaningful, fulfilled life, we must all have. Government must make laws so that every citizen will live meaningfully. We are saved, Christians, we are saved for good works. There should not be a day in our life when we go to sleep without doing some good work. Without doing some good work. But it's true that we don't do good works, Our excuse is we don't have opportunity. Oh, plenty of opportunity. Plenty of opportunity to do good works. You can help some old women to cross the road, some young children. There are poor people, trash collectors and these garbage collectors and all. You give them a good meal a day, someday. The orphanages, you can go to the orphanage and may provide some food there. You can buy some clothes. Christmas is coming, little far away. But you can do. We all buy our gifts for our children for their birthdays. Well, when our wedding anniversary comes, instead of buying a gift for our wife, you buy it. I bought one for my wife also. But we can also do that, give some gifts to somebody else. Yes. Always do some good works. And good works need not to be done only to the poor people. You can do even some good works to the rich people. Why? Because there are many rich people who are sick and who cannot do their thing, and you go there, knock on the door, and maybe very rich, they have plenty of money, but this old Ammachi is there, she cannot move, and say that I have come to ask whether anything I could do to help you. Wash your clothes, clean your house, cook meals for you. Well, but we don't, because we are not born dhobis, to wash somebody's clothes. That thinking is not in our minds. We were not brought up by our parents thinking like that. So, we are in an artificial world. We don't obey the law, we don't see the law, we don't understand the law, we don't understand the will of God and all these things, It's terrible. So what I say, we don't have a meaningful existence. We only have an existence. Man must live meaningfully with dignity and freedom, without anyone stepping on his toes. No one has the right to harm others or harm self. Man cannot waste his life, for life is a stewardship. God has given life to live, and we must live till the appointed day, and our life must be meaningful. At the close of our life, we should be able to say that, Lord, you gave me a life. I have run the race. I have done my duties. I enjoyed my life. I helped others to enjoy their life. As far as I know, all my duties are done. I enjoyed my privileges. My rights I have enjoyed. How many people could honestly say, you don't have to wait at the close of your life, at the end of the day. You ask your wife at the end of the day, do you feel you had a meaningful existence today? Or it was only an existence? It's a meaningful existence. You honestly feel that as a wife you are loved, you are respected, you are cared for? Could you say that as a wife you have done your duty to your husband, your children, honestly? Or was it a lazy day? What was it all about? When you step out of the office, you must feel that I have done my duty for the money they are paying me. Look back and look at the table and see all the files are in the places and you have done your duty. So that's why God said that, gave us the seventh day, the Jew, for us the first day of the week. What is the meaning of it? In 6 days you shall do all your work. Right? 6 days you shall do all your work. Nothing should be pending. Washing the clothes or doing the homework. Then you shall rest on the first day of the week, worship God and have fellowship and enjoy your life. And I tell you, you cannot finish all your work in 6 days unless you finish all your work in every day. You just cannot do that. So, we need to develop a discipline where we do our duties. Your life is not meaningful unless we do these things. It's not. Our rights and our duties. So every Christian, don't work overtime at your office because you are taking away your wife's time. You're supposed to be at home providing company to your wife, fellowship to your wife and your children. Why should you stay at home? At office extra time? You are appointed there to work 8 hours. You work honestly 8 hours. You can finish all your work in 6 hours. The last 2 hours you could sit there and think about maybe what you're going to do tomorrow and all that. Don't run around, fool around things. So the government should make laws in such a way that every employee must be able to fulfill his duty faithfully. An incentive must be given to employees who finish their work early. That incentive is you can go home peacefully. And any employee who does not finish, they can go home only after finishing their. Every employee must go to his supervisor or his boss and give us certificate saying all the files I have finished, all jobs assigned to me for the day, nothing is pending. Could honestly say that? Wives must be able to say that. I have washed all clothes, I have washed all dishes. It's not saying it's your duty alone to wash clothes, These days that everybody has a washing machine and the husband could also press the button on. I have done whatever you are doing, I have done it. Swept the floor, this, that, bathed the children, dressed the children, taught them their homework and everything, and I have done my duty, And say that I have done my duty, I deserve respect. It's my right. It's my right that my husband sit with me and talk to me. You have not done it. Shame on you. You can say that. How many wives are not thinking that way, They think their only right is what? Some wives, of course, feel that if their husbands stay away, that's their privilege. It's a trouble. Everybody wants a husband, but nobody wants a husband. You know that? They want a husband, yes. Marriage must be there, but once they are married, keep away. And the people who work in the Gulf, wives at home, back home, and husbands there, they're very happy. The trouble comes when